Erased Destiny. Chapter 2. The Barrel of Mushrooms. This time Merigold was the first to get out of bed. She usually got up several minutes after her mother, awakened by the morning's busyness. Her sister's sneeze frightened Merigold so much that the girl dropped her cup. Water spilled across the floor and Abella crawled out from under the duvet. Everyone had woken up much earlier than usual that day.
Eat a solid breakfast and pack a piece of bread. We'll walk the shortest way, but it's still 2 hours one way.
Buy me a blue dress, please.
If I sell this one, I'll buy you a dress.
On the way, Abella told Merigold about Sintra. She described the market, the familiar shops, and the larger streets. The pictures blandly came together. Here, a beautiful mansion of a fire mage, and right next door a collapsed hovel without a roof. A stone bridge in perfect condition, and a ruined road leading to it. A navy house that everyone uses as a signpost. Her mother carried a dress wrapped in sheets, and Merigold tried to remember everything. She was distracted by the unfamiliar landscapes. She had never ventured near Sintra. She was far more interested in forests and rivers than fields or roads. Caves where bats could be found, burrows inhabited by duendes and the hollows of noisy owls at night. Walking along the crest of a sunny hill, Merigold admired pink flowers growing from strong, supple stems used in autumn to weave hats. She picked one flower and slipped it into her hair.
Your dress is worth a lot, but don't expect more than 15 silvers. I have asked for 10 and no luck. If you were to exchange it, 5 elbows of fabric go for 2 silver each.
And the meat? How much does it cost?
It depends. For 1 silver, you can buy a few kilos of raw meat. Meat is rather cheap late autumn and very expensive by the end of spring. I suggest buying some bones. They are very cheap and we could cook many soups out of them.
Merigold dreamt about sausages, not some soups. If she got 10 silvers, she could buy both fabric and meat. She was not good at math, so she used her fingers to calculate how much meat she could afford. Her stiff fingers, still not recovered, made it somewhat difficult. Abella pretended to not see anything. They were broken, totally broken. They didn't have any money left. The situation would be much better if only Raglan allowed Abella to look for a job in Sintra. They said goodbye in front of the gate, where Jargon had stopped a few days before. Abella went home and Merigold threw the pack over her back and set off along the widest available road. In front of the navy house, she turned right and found herself in a place full of shops. She looked around. The only path led uphill, and her mother had made it clear that Merigold should head towards the river. In order not to draw attention to herself, the girl went uphill. She figured out that from high viewpoint, she could surely spot a river and perhaps even a market. In front of a wooden, centuries-old house, she saw a warrior polishing his sword.
Good morning. You teach Jargon swordsmanship, don't you?
That's right. Are you looking for me?
Not really. I am Jargon's neighbor. I have seen you many times when you passed by my house.
Yes, now I remember. You were looking over the fence at our training sessions.
Merigold felt a bit embarrassed. She bowed politely, and her dress fell to the ground. She tried to pick it up, but the slippery material escaped her sore fingers. Torden observed helpless girl for a while. Why didn't she ask for help? Was she so shy or so full of herself?
Where are you going?
To the market. To sell this dress.
The market is the other way. You're lost, aren't you?
Torden carried the sword into the house, and after a while came out with a wooden one. He picked up the package from the ground. He and Merigold walked down the path, past the Navy House, that the girl took as a signpost, crossed the bridge, and continued towards the walls.
If you don't do anything with that hand, you won't recover.
I thought all I have to do is to not move my hand and it would heal somehow.
Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not enough. Don't you have a witch doctor in your village?
Merigold's silence was taken by the warrior as a negative answer. He had often seen children whose injuries had not been properly treated by anyone. He was annoyed by the carelessness or passivity of parents who, like Merigold, believed that time would heal all wounds. He turned left and showed the girl another gate.
See that hollow black roof? Right next to it is the market. People used to be able to see it from here, but they built that awful inn and spoiled the view.
The girl's eyes followed the warrior's hand. The yellow-painted building was intimidating, not only because of its shaky construction and crooked windows, but also because of its awful signboard depicting a rooster.
Thank you very much for your help.
Before we say goodbye, I will fix your hand. After all, it was my apprentice who messed up, wasn't it?
A crunch of bone and a brief pulse of pain was a small price to pay for being able to move all her fingers. The girl clenched her hand and, satisfied with the result, smiled at the warrior.
Thank you again. You have helped me a lot.
Visit me someday, if you like. Good luck, little one.
Torden made his way to the stables, and from there straight to Jargon's house. He was greeted by a somewhat puzzled boy. Jargon was sure that his fencing lesson was due only after dessert. In the morning, he carefully read the schedule prepared by his mother.
We will have our lesson earlier today, if you are free. Parents home?
No, they are not, but they will be back for lunch.
The absence of Joanna, who was guarding her only child's safety, made it easier to conduct the lesson. Jargon happily abandoned his calligraphy sheet and changed into his training outfit. After the first stroke, he landed on his back.
Nice to demonstrate your superiority to others? How does it feel to fight someone with greater strength and sharper skills? Get up.
Tears appeared in Jargon's eyes. He blocked another blow, and the wooden sword slipped out of his hand. Before he could reach for it, the teacher clapped him on the back. He got up and tried to not look so miserable, but the impact of Torden's counterattack knocked the boy's weapon out of his hand.
Better practice on girls, eh? And preferably on ones that have never held a sword in their hand? Are you proud of yourself?
I'm not. It was an accident.
An accident is when you trip over a broomstick at night. If you pick up a sword, it's a decision.
Jargon sat down on the grass. For the first time, he thought that maybe his mother was right, and fencing was not the sport for him. It was the first time he felt how different the lessons were from real duels. He hoped that he would never have to defend himself against an armed onslaught of the likes of Torden.
Do you remember our first class? What did I tell you about responsibility? What did I tell you about the law? Do you fancy ending up in a dungeon? Do you think you'd get your desserts there? Clean clothes every day?
You said that it is a crime to attack someone with a sword. That it is illegal to use a weapon against the innocent, the unarmed, and children. But a stick is not a weapon, is it? Wooden sword is not on the list, am I right?
A stick is one of the wooden weapons and indeed not listed, but it can be just as dangerous as a sword. Why did you sit down?
I know I hurt Merigold. I am sorry. I have apologized to her and her family. I will never teach her again. She attacked me, I shielded myself. I know, my fault. I should have seen it coming. How do you know I broke Merigold's fingers? Did she go to Sintra to complain?
Jargon didn't answer on Torden's question. He felt pain in his wrists, felt terrified by the real duel vibes. He wanted to hide in his room as soon as possible and stay there till his parents return home. Should he continue fencing lessons? He was not sure. Torden looked at Boy for some time, as if he was looking for the right words. He felt sorry for Cyril to have Jargon as an heir.
She didn't tell me anything. I saw her in Sintra as she was walking to the market. Someone who has seen all sorts of injuries could easily guess what had happened to the girl.
Torden left Jargon alone. Walking away, he said some more.
She is not able to move her fingers because you couldn't afford 3 coppers to pay the healer. 3 coppers. You saved a lot on her health. I'll see you in 5 days if you still want to practice fencing.
3 coppers. Jargon should have apologized, paid for the treatment, and their friendship would be saved. 5-year-old could do as much. But not a 12-year-old rich boy. Jargon was angry with himself. He put his training equipment away and went to the room formerly occupied by his sister. His parents forbade him to go in there. Nothing in the room had been rearranged since Malika's death. A layer of dust had covered the wide, soft bed. The chair where Malika sat to read or draw in her notebook. The ink-splattered calligraphy table did not have the pen pads Jargon was used to. He wondered if his sister kept the pens in her teeth or if the pads had gone missing somewhere. Cyril had told him that Malika loved to bake cookies and had a real talent for it. Jargon regretted that he hardly remembered his sister. He stumbled over a book lying by the wardrobe, invisible because of the dust. Only now he noticed the footprints he had left in the fluff carpet covering the wooden floor. His parents would notice that he had stepped where he was not allowed to go. He picked up a book from the floor and wiped the dust off with his sleeve. It was a manuscript on cooking, so Jargon decided to keep it. If his mother attacked him for profaning room of the deceased, he found a plausible excuse. He was looking for a recipe for the cinnamon cookies his father had praised. Jargon opened the wardrobe and browsed through the dresses hanging in it. He chose a simple green creation, made of soft, tactile material, and carried it to his room. He searched the drawer for any coppers he possessed. Thus prepared, he waited for nightfall, and in the meantime, did his calligraphy homework. His aching hands were not holding the pen as they should, so that the end result looked rather miserable. Thanks to a tip from Torden, Merigold arrived at the market. She took a few minutes to walk around the stalls, surprisingly similar to the structures she had assembled for Rose. She'd expected something more permanent. Meanwhile, most of the stalls seemed so shaky that any gust of wind could topple them over. She looked out for a quiet place to stand, but the guards have surrounded her.
What do you want to buy?
I want to sell this dress.
This is not a place for door-to-door trading. If you want to sell something, pay the market fee.
But I have no money. That's why I'm selling.
Guards pushed the girl outside the stalls and watched until she disappeared behind an ugly inn. Merigold made a wide detour around the market and, with her pack on her back, crept from the side of the river. She slipped on stones wet from the night's rain and fell over, and the bundle landed in the mud. She hoped only the sheets had suffered, but the racket drew the attention of the other guards. Merigold sat down on the bridge to gather her thoughts. People passed her by without saying a word, mostly without noticing her. Just a child, like many in the city.
Nice dress you have there.
I will gladly sell it.
Behind Merigold stood a woman about 60 years old, reeking of urine, with ruined hands and tangled hair, but dressed very neatly in a dark green apron and a similar coat.
And what do I need such a dress for? I'm just saying it's pretty.
What does a country girl need such a dress for? I got it as a gift, but it did more harm than good. I would have preferred something to eat. Or fabric so I could get something new to wear.
Are you a seamstress by any chance?
No, but my mother is. She sews everything for us.
The woman looked at Merigold's clothes and then at the sheet-wrapped dress once more. She thought about potential costs and future possibilities. She looked at Merigold, waiting for her answer. She felt sorry for the poor girl, so she offered her exchange, the yellow dress for some fabric. Merigold gladly accepted the offer.
In that case, come with me. It stinks a bit there.
The women followed the path along the river. They passed 2 more bridges and stopped in front of a sprawling single-story house with a recently added attic. The additional floor differed not only in its design, but also in the materials used for construction. Instead of stones, someone had used wooden beams. Apart from the smell of urine, there were many more unpleasant smells in the air around the house. Rotting wood, irritating herbs, stale milk, and eggs. With a stick, the woman pulled out a rag soaking in a wooden trough. The rag was brown in color, quite dark and cold in its tone.
Wrong again. I dye fabric, so I have quite a lot of it. Take what you like.
What color do you want to get? Warm brown?
Brown but falling into green with golden highlights. Rather unique composition, but my client has requested it.
Let me think for a moment. Bark of black oat should do the trick with golden highlights. If you add some green clay, it should become more greenish, but it is not cheap. I know, stone mesh for indigestion contains penitent leaves. They give a beautiful green color that nothing can wash away.
Merigold disappeared between the shelves. Fabrics wound on poles shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow. Most were red, brown, and black. Slightly less blue and hardly any purple.
A black mallow grows at our place. It gives a prettier hue.
You know a lot about plants. Would you like to work for me?
Sure, gladly. I'll take the blue one for my sister. And the green one for me.
This one is for men's trousers. For hunters. Thick and strong but rather rough. Take the one next to it. It's also strong and softer to the touch. I'll give you some purple as well. As you noticed, it's not very pretty and people don't buy it. Bring me some mallow flowers if you could. I'll pay. My name is Amanda. If you get lost, just ask about me at the market.